Copyright disclaimer. Under Title 17 U.S.C. Section 107, allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, and research. Fair use is permitted by copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing nonprofit, educational, or personal use, tips the balance in favor of fair use. Okay, you guys, so this is the continuation. Suicide and violence in Scientology. Apparently I did remember the name. I just couldn't find it, and it was meant for me to stop the last video. So we're going to start with R for Otto Roos, who did not die but was physically attacked by LRH in 1972. Upon entry, was hit, kicked, screamed, and shouted at. The blows of an old man did not bother him, he said, but the violence did. Can't help but think of all the children going through this right now that nobody seems to, they don't seem to know about it, or they don't seem to care. And first and foremost, it doesn't seem like a whole lot of people want to apply the law when it comes to child labor, when it comes to child abuse, physical abuse, child neglect, child trafficking. R for Rodney J. Raimondo, 22. Every time I see these young ages, it just, something in my heart. From San Jose, California, who joined the Sea Org in Los Angeles in January 1986 and jumped, fell, or was pushed out of a window at the LA Org on 25 November 1986. I'm really on the fence with these suicide notes. I mean, you had the one lady who apparently the suicide note was missing. That tells me she was telling why she was doing it. To me, that screams authenticity, and the Scientologist hid it. Now, the ones in which they were found, I'm very sus of those. Especially when they say it wasn't Scientology's fault. I mean, but nobody knows how to bring these people to charges, or the ones committing the crimes, I mean. A suicide note found on his bunk bed. You know, the unlawful bunk beds that they keep people in. At the Scientology Center was a clumsy forgery. It was not in his handwriting, according to his mother, and made reference to a wife, but Raimondo was single. They get this guy in an acting, well, let's see, acting maybe not in San Jose. How far is San Jose from LA? Oh, he was in Los Angeles. I wonder how they trapped him. I keep talking about all the black magic. They're traps. R for Ruth Ann Roberts, 58, died in 2000. Editor would like to know the cause of death. Yes, we would like to know the cause of death, Scientology. David Miscavige, OSA. We want to know, how did Ruth Ann Roberts really die? Inquiring MF minds want to know. R for Venus Sequoia Rojo, dated 4 June 1980 to 13 May 1998. Very close to hubby's birthday. Again. Age 17, which makes her a minor. Minor. I'm going to highlight all these children. You better believe it. Who died at the Mojave Desert. Wait a minute, you guys. I'm making a connection. If you guys could help me, I would appreciate it. Mojave Desert. Is that where one of the ranch schools were? There's something not being talked about here, because I've seen Mojave Desert like 3 or 4 times. All children. Were these children trying to escape? You know, the one that the Hemet police bring back? Or remember when Scientologists infiltrated or ran interference with all the children trying to escape the ranch schools, like the lower ranch and the other various schools? And then the truckers that were trying to help the children, the truckers and the locals that were trying to help the children, now Scientology they didn't fair game them, they safe pointed them. So the children had zero options, zero places to go. Could Venus Secolia Rojo, could she have been sexually abused? Could it be possible? And what did the examiner say, the medical examiner? Huh? Cause of death unknown? Really? Really? Was she on introspection rundown? It's amazing how these children get no justice. S for Bob Schaffner. And you guys notice there's a lot more information for the adults than there are for the children. But however, I do appreciate all of this information. S for Bob Schaffner, OT3, killed himself in 1987 or 88. Is that when they find out about Xenu? I think it is. I think it is, you guys. By riding his bike under a truck. According to Jesse Prince, Bobby and his wife Cindy were harassed because they wanted to have children, and children were frowned upon. I say there's way more to it. I don't buy that. I don't buy that for 1 minute. I don't buy it. And how old was Schaffner? I don't buy it, you guys. Gotta read between the lines, you guys. S for David Sandweiss. Suicide in 1977. Was guardian office agent. So that means he worked with Rinder and Rathburn and Armstrong and a bunch of the other ones, who allegedly confessed to being Quentin Hubbard's lover. I don't know, you guys. Okay, number one, personally, you obviously know I would not have any problem if Quentin truly was homosexual. Like, I have zero. But what bothers me about this is that they push this narrative so hard. One of Quentin's best friends said he was not. It's possible. But isn't it odd that I don't know. I don't know what to believe. I mean, we know what they do to people. And isn't it interesting how in this kind of situation, nobody ever mentions who was auditing this guy or who was giving him ethics handlings or sec checks. You understand what I'm saying? Because that would mean death by coercion in a lot of ways. That I'm just saying. See, end of article on the death of Quentin Hubbard. There's so much cover up with this Quentin Hubbard. S for Frank Suarez. Was an OT, perhaps OT3, who SHOT himself in late 1991 at his home in Broward County, Florida. Who found his body? Was it good old Chief Slaughter? Was it good old Chief Slaughter once again? Or no, Broward's not. You guys, isn't Broward County close to Clearwater? Near Fort Lauderdale. This is another thing that I always am very suspicious about. Leaving a wife and 2 children, age 9 or 10. See that? I mean, all suicides are different, but don't people usually want to live for their children? And their wife? Okay, listen to this. The reason appears to be that he had used LSD in his youth and could not do higher levels in this life. I mean, I don't know. I just don't take everything as complete truth. It could be. Maybe he was one of those hardcore Scientologists that his in his in his eyes his life was over because he couldn't do higher levels. But to leave a wife and 2 children? I don't know. And he already got to OT3. S for James Sharp, 15. Listen to this. Another child murked. Another child murked. And LAPD are like, oh, nothing to see over here. Murdered in Los Angeles in 1969. Probably by one or more members of the Manson family. I don't know about all this Manson stuff, but I'll just read it. Charles Manson may have had a grudge against Scientology for rejecting him. I don't think Scientology rejected Manson. Manson couldn't stand Scientology. He said it was too weird for him. You see how things get changed? When he believed he was a very important member. I don't buy that, you guys. I don't buy it. I don't buy it. I don't buy it. I don't buy it. You see how things can get fudged? Another victim was Doreen Gall, aged 19. The magic number. S for James Stewart, 36, who suffered from epilepsy, was found dead 50 feet below a window at the Advanced Org in Edinburgh, Scotland. Can I ask someone something? How on earth can we have this many deaths? There's so many of them and nobody knows? I mean, I guess the isolation, there can be certain Scientologists that don't know about this. But these are a lot of deaths. And we haven't even covered the infant deaths. Was found dead 50 feet below a window at the Advanced Org in Edinburgh, Scotland in August 1968. So, Scottish government said, we're just so happy with Scientology coming in here, right? I mean, you got to read between the lines. He was an OT3, a Class 7 auditor, and the executive director of the Durban Org. A few days before his death, had completed an ethics condition wherein he stayed awake for 80 hours. MK Ultra sleep deprivation is number 1. A punishment which Hubbard inflicted on his second wife, Sarah Northrup. I just want to jump in and interject. We have to remember who's more than likely writing these stories. I'm glad the information's out, but I'm just going to say it. I'm going to say what a lot of people won't say, and I just don't care. And this is simply a statement. It's somewhat of a theory, a question. Who would have way more to lose by speaking up about the real truth of what was going on in Scientology than some of the ex-Scientologists? I'm not saying everyone, you guys. That's all I'm saying. That's it. James had a head injury sustained during a fit. Who was holding him down? Don't you guys wonder who was holding James down? I mean, maybe not. It could have been an epileptic seizure. The following notice was posted on the org bulletin board. James Stewart has been put in a condition of doubt. Imagine all the children being put into the condition of doubt. Has been put into a condition of doubt for having seizures in public, and thus invalidating Scientology. That's the black PR. If there is any reoccurrence of these, either consciously or unconsciously on his part, he will be placed in a condition of enemy. Who was his ethics officer or the person responsible for giving him this condition? Don't you guys wonder who that was? If there is any reoccurrence of these either consciously or unconsciously on his part, he will be placed in a condition of enemy. Wow. At the time, Dowd incurred 48 hours sleep deprivation. One of his tasks during his period was to crawl about the carpets, picking out bits of fluff. We've heard this numerous times, especially by the children in Scientology. Apparently, they love to have the children pick pieces of lint out of the carpet. Stewart's real crime was telling the hospital that he was a Scientologist, thus supposedly giving Scientology a bad name. He had injured his head and wore a blood-stained bandage while performing his demeaning amends project. Do you know the level of sickness, you guys? Do you know the level of sickness? Could there be a reason that we don't know who the ethics officer or the ethics handler was doing this to him? It is also possible that he was made to crawl across the steep and slippery slates of the org roof as a final part of his doubt formula. This bizarre practice was quite usual at the time. John Atack speculates that Stewart fell from the roof during this penance. This would be the first known death of a Scientologist. Oh, please, you guys. Please. Please. Can we go back to one of my videos in which I was reading about the little Jamaican girl that was made to be working on a roof and fell off the roof and died? I forgot her name. Never brought up. I mean, maybe they didn't know. Okay, so some of this stuff just freaking makes me go off. This would be the first known death. Right. Come on. Of a Scientologist that can be attributed to the instructions of the organization. Is this Atack saying it? It's unreal. Shortly before his death, Stewart had been suspended from his course at the AO. Stewart, described in the newspapers as an encyclopedia salesman, had been a founder of the Cape Town org and was a senior executive there. Yeah, they wanted to humiliate this guy. Whomever was making him do this. This is sickening. The highest level of training at the time, clear number 153, there were over 2,000 by then. And in OT3 when he died. One of his success stories was published in the Auditor magazine at around the time of his death. It was headed, "How Scientology Training Has Helped Me in Life." This makes me sad. No compassion. I find that training and auditing experience helps me in innumerable ways. In driving a car patiently in heavy traffic, waking up in the morning, confronting anything unpleasant in life, keeping myself occupied in leisure hours, in writing letters, making telephone calls. It just hurts my heart for some reason. In chance conversations with strangers. In fact, training helps in every conceivable situation or experience anywhere, any place, any time. Try it for yourself and see. Scientology kills epileptics. But there was more to this. But whomever was making him do all those conditions, sadistic, repugnant, no empathy, scum of the earth. And those names never seem to get revealed, do they? S for Jimmy Spheris, 34. The musician died in a motorcycle wreck near Venice Beach, 4th July 1984. At the time, he was on the Philadelphia doctorate course and getting auditing. What do they mean, Philadelphia doctorate course? Was he in college? He was being given a lot of stress about being a homosexual and being in Scientology courses. Alternately, he was killed by a drunk driver. You guys, there's something strange about these car accidents. I mean, I could be looking into it, but I've seen 2 people from all of these names I've read that were allegedly killed by a drunk driver. I mean, it's possible, but I mean, being so hateful toward a homosexual sounds like a hate crime, but, we only apply hate crimes to certain, agenda type things. S for Lloyd Speedy, who suicided when he had spent all his money on services, when he was actually type 3 psychotic. I believe isn't type 3 one of the Scientology terms? That meant somebody needed to help him. You see how things are being left out, you guys? You guys see how things are being left out? Somebody should have helped him. I mean, maybe he was just bent on doing it, but how is it that he suicided and there's psychosis involved? You guys see? Don't they usually give them the introspection rundown and then they isolate them and put them in a room? S for Karen Simons, suicide. Another hanging, you guys. And where did she hang herself? Hung herself in London. Where? You guys see what I'm getting at, right? Hung herself in London, May 1991. I wish they'd give ages here. Sometimes they do. Shortly after she refused to sign a Sea Org contract. Gotta read between the lines. She was preparing a negative report on Scientology at the time of her death. Well, isn't that convenient, you guys? Could it be somebody like these, coward, dickless men standing over her, telling her she was going to hang herself? Could that be a possibility? It's a question. Questions are free to ask in the United States of America and many countries. Could that be the case? Because they never pick a fair fight, right? A number of critics have died conveniently and unexpectedly. Yes, I think those deaths need to be looked into. And if the cops and the authorities aren't going to do anything, we're going to just keep screaming their names. We'll do our own investigation and just expose the facts. You got to stick with the facts. You got to stick with the information. That's it. S for Lloyd Speedy. Killed himself circa 1989 after spending all of his money on services when he was psychotic. I don't know, you guys. I'm very sus of these same alleged suicides. They're all, and they didn't even explain how he killed himself. It's possible, don't get me wrong. This is highly possible. But why are all of them psychotic and they spent all their money? I mean, I'm not saying it's not a possibility, but I'd like to have a few more details, wouldn't you guys? S for Mark Schatzenbergen left Scientology beginning 1988. So you guys know the first thing they do is disconnect, right? Let's just keep it 100. And what is it? The freeloaders did as well? Because he felt they were perverting their own goals and didn't live up to their statements. No names, of course. According to his mother, Mark's reason to commit suicide in June-July 1998 was the enormous amount of pressure the cult still exerted on him. His father and sister remains members, so you know they cut him off, right? His mother is still devastated. As for Megan Shields' daughter, who hung herself, another woman who hung herself. I'm going to look more into what type of investigations go on when people hang themselves, allegedly. Because there are certain markers that you're supposed to look for. I'm just keeping it 100. As for Melvin Stream, a former Harvard student, you guys know they don't like that, right? Who lost his mind in Scientology, because of auditing and ethics handlings and maybe ethics conditions, sec checking. By 1981, he was getting worse and worse. Forgetting to shave, dressing in dirty clothes, and generally out of touch with reality. They offloaded him, the ones with no names. The unnamed participants, the unnamed Scientologists, offloaded him around 1983 or 4. We've heard this numerous times. He was schizophrenic and broke. How does a former Harvard student end up as a bag boy? That's part of the humiliation, you guys. I mean, it's definitely related to narcissism, but I don't want to get too off track. That's pretty sad. It's very sad to me. I wonder how old Melvin was. A lot of it is, I'm just going to keep it real. There are probably some people in there that were jealous of him and his intellect. It's heartbreaking. As for Patrick William Salvo, once a great guy who seemed to have lost his mind completely before he died about 2005. I'd like to know a little more. One, how old he is. What level was he on? Was he an OT? Was he a pre-clear? As for Paul Schaefer, who killed himself in the early 70s when he had just left the group. So then I'm going to add this in. That's automatic disconnection from all of your family, disconnection from all of the businesses that you are associated with, disconnection with your dentist, your Scientology dentist, disconnection with your Scientology doctor, and your entire network. Jehovah's Witness do it. What's the other one? The Mormons. There's various groups that do it. At the time, I was told that he got messed up because he left the group. Now we can deduce that he was thrown out and denied help because, like so many others, had been messed up. I'd like more details, but I mean, we get the gist. I'd like to know how old he was. As for Quentin Schnager, I don't know how to say that, Schnager, suicide in Copenhagen, hung himself. As for Rita Smith, who killed herself by hanging at East Grinstead. I'm a little bit nervous about some of these. I mean, maybe they just didn't have the information. I'm not blaming the author. But it's a little bit, makes me nervous with some of these that there's no details. But it could be that maybe they weren't able to get the details, but was it suicide in the Scientology buildings? Did they commit suicide in their house? And me, the way I believe some of these details are purposely kept out. And it might not have been the author. It could just be wherever the information was taken from. As for Rita Smith, who killed herself by hanging at East Grinstead in 1987. As for Steve Surrey, kept having psychotic breaks in 1973 while he was the ED of Alan Walters' Salt Lake City's mission. He'd be screaming his lungs out during sessions, begging for anyone to help him. It's so... I mean, these are the things that very much upset me. Nobody's going to help the poor guy. His auditor, Jerry Knight, swore that he was just running out dramatizations. They tell that to the children as well. As if this was really good for him. I think Steve is still happily in Scientology. I wouldn't call that happily. As for Suzanne Schroeder, who went crazy, perhaps in Denmark, her husband put her in hospital. See, that's what someone who loves someone does. You understand? That's what someone who loves somebody does. It's a method of protecting them. As for Terry Schiavo, who was taken off life support by judicial order right away when I saw that, I know something's off. That aroused great controversy. Her husband, Michael, a Scientologist, has been accused of influencing the judge. You guys, isn't that like a federal crime? Influencing judges? That's another thing I'm going to look into. I mean, in theory, anyways. I don't even know if I'm going to be able to finish this. I got something to do here soon. T for Jean Trout, or Trout. Suicide in about 1980, an OT7. You see how OT7 and OT8 are the magic numbers for taking your own life? It's because people figure out the scam. I do wonder how many of these were coerced as well. T for Koos Nost Trenet. In 1974, when a Koos went to work for Guardian's office, he was a normal, fun-loving guy. By 1979, he was dangerously unstable, showing symptoms of paranoid schizophrenia, which persisted and which went untreated. On 25 December 1999, his daughter, then 19 years old, died in their home near Forchheim, Germany. Autopsy showed she had drowned. Me personally, I don't believe that story. I mean, she probably drowned, but I think maybe he helped her along. The father had the habit of torturing or treating his wife with hot and cold jets of water. It was perhaps his version of the purification rundown. An infant daughter died. Why do they word things like this? I mean, maybe things were unfounded, conveniently. An infant daughter died in 1983, 10 days after birth of an untreated respiratory infection. That's Scientology. I mean, it's the parents that are going along with it, but as far as known, Coos is still alive and still posting his very bizarre ideas, which identify Hubbard, not without reason, as the devil. I guess it just sucked for the infant daughter and the daughter that was drowned then, huh? Isn't that amazing? It just sucked for them. T for Leah Theory, a Scientologist, attempted suicide sometime in May 1974. We have to remember how many haven't been documented. And also, too, this was in 2010. It's 15 years ago. How many cries for help have these children, as well as adults, been crying for help and nobody's helping them, including the police, including the, authoritative agencies? I mean, it's just sad. T for Rob Tweedall, New Zealand suicide. Can't but help think of, what's her name? Francois Coster playing the Hotel California song. Must be a coincidence. You can check out any time you like, but you just can't. Wait, how does it go? Just can't kill the beast. T for Robert Thorburn, who died after being shot in the head at Las Vegas by James Duchesneau, 30, and Frederick Weber, 23, who had both been shot in the leg by Thorburn with the same gun. No arrests? I guess when that happens, maybe they got to do something, huh? V for David Voorhees of Washington State went crazy in 1982 or 1983 in Los Angeles trying to audit the BTs. That's body thetans. Kind of like little spirits or little, people call them a lot of things, but trying to audit the BTs and clusters. He was held captive. Just by the way, for the LAPD and anybody else, he's held captive per L. Ron Hubbard policy, which is written, which to me kind of sounds like false imprisonment, but, what do I know? He was held captive in a room somewhere in Los Angeles for weeks, just like Lisa McPherson in Clearwater, and injected with Thorazine to calm him. Isn't that medical malpractice? David was told by his captors, the ones with no names, that he was getting vitamin B injections. And there's that HEW 219 again. Could somebody explain what that is to me, please? V for Eric Vigeland, who was in Scientology in Boston in the late 1970s and early 1980s. Eric was a psych case. He inherited some money. Oh, they were sniffing around that. Give it all to the fund to help Mary Sue. Huh, interesting. Mary Sue Hubbard. Let's just clear that up. USGO FBI lawsuit. And got a bunch of auditing as a reward. He was not a very stable person, and even by Scientology standards, he should have been shown the door. Scientology knew Eric was not stable when they took him in. Well, they needed his money, you guys. And it's not right to take every cent from someone who is ill-equipped to survive on his own in society. That's actually a crime. I would have to go look it up. That's a federal crime right there. I can't remember the name of it, but it's 100% a crime, just that alone. You can't take advantage of a person who does not have their mental faculties. It's 100% a crime. And again, nobody was charged as usual. Must be a conspiracy, huh? V for Frank Vitkovic of Queen Street, Melbourne, Australia. In 1987, Frank Vitkovic opened fire in a business building in Melbourne, Australia. How many have we heard like this? But the cops, they don't know anything about it, you know? Just making some good money. Killing 8 people and wounding 5 others before he plunged to his death, trying to escape. 2 months prior to the attacks, wow, he had taken a personality test offered by the Church of Scientology. Boy, they moved in on him quick, didn't they? He must have had some money. Taken a personality test offered by the Church of Scientology, which was said to mean he was extremely depressed. It was the second worst test result. Oh, of course it was. Scamming. Scientology volunteer I'd ever seen. You know, the one with no name. It was argued at the inquest that the organization had not taken the appropriate measures indicated by their information, which could have prevented the massacre. Wow. And that the test possibly contributed to Vitkovic's mental state at the time of the SHOOTINGS. That's something to look into. I don't have enough time in the day to research all this stuff. Lord have mercy. V for Patrice Vic, father of 2 young children who died in March 1988 in Lyon, France. When he jumped to his death, I remember this one, from the 12-story window of his children's bedroom. This one's really heartbreaking. He had spent all his money on courses with the Church of Scientology and had then borrowed 30,000 francers, French francers, about $5,000, to be able to take the purification rundown, a process described as dangerous and worthless. The French court ruled that the local branch had driven Vic to suicide. Imagine that, California, Florida. And found its leader, Jean-Jacques Mazière, guilty of involuntary manslaughter. 14 other Scientologists were convicted on related charges. He went to his death believing his debit card had been stolen by prostitutes. Oh. What's the fixation with prostitutes in Scientology? What's the deal? He went to his death believing his debit card had been stolen by prostitutes, when in fact it had been stolen by the criminals running the Lyons org. Wow. Trying to think here. V for Suzanne von Sickle of Seattle was murked in November 1990 when her daughter Jean Shumway, 59, and granddaughter Alexis Shumway, 29, both Scientologists, first tried to K her with a drug overdose. And when that did not work, they smothered her with a pillow. $13,000 went to Scientology. I think this is something really to look into. This is kind of sparked my memory. Obviously, I would never endorse this, but I believe these 2 daughters were seriously abused. And they freaking were like, you know what? Enough is effing enough. Because obviously nobody helped them. Were they child Scientologists? So anyways, I'm going to stop here, and then I will do WXYZ in a short period of time. I've got somewhere to be. Like and subscribe if you choose. Otherwise, have an amazing day or night wherever you are. Peace.